Howard Jones, hello.
Hi, Steve. How are you?
I'm really good, thank you. Welcome to Virgin Radio and Virgin Radio 80s Plus. You're like, don't embarrass you, but you are the perfect guest.
Well, that's very kind of you.
We play all your songs on Virgin Radio 80s Plus, and the thing is, and I know we'll get into this, but they have all stood the test of time, and some of them sound futuristic even now. Does that make sense?
I'm so glad that they do. I mean, I was listening to a few songs on the radio the other night, and I thought, wow, this really jumps out of the radio. It's like almost like mixed for radio. It's just got this energy, and thinking, oh yeah, this is happening. Yeah.
Like some of them years ahead of themselves. I mean, we'll get into it. It's really interesting to note that on your list of songs, there are lots of songs of that similar ilk. I mean, we start with Grace Jones, which is down here, but the same could be said for that. I mean, that could be released now. Why have you picked it?
I just remember I was on tour in America, and we were on a tour bus, at night after a gig. And, they have the most amazing sound systems on those buses because it's all musicians travelling in it the whole time. And putting that track on, and it just absolutely blew me away. Trevor Horn, amazing production, and her just incredible. I mean, what a personality, and it comes through on the record. And you can just listen to that record over and over and over. It's just fantastic. Did
your paths ever cross? Because lots of people have asked for this song. I wonder how many people have actually, because she was a scary character, wasn't she?
Yeah, it's quite intimidating. I think that I was on the same plane as her once coming back from Italy,
right?
And she walked by, so that was my only connection with her. But that was enough, really, to Grace Jones. Wow. What a personality. Amazing.
And which show was it on TV where that incident? Was it the Russell Harty? Do you remember where she slapped him in the middle of...
That's right. She had gloves on, didn't she?
Yes.
Whacked him, yeah. Yeah, that's right. Don't talk to me like that, Russell.
That's it. The poor guy looked absolutely shocked, didn't he?
Yeah, that's right. He probably deserved it, though. He was quite cheeky with his questions, wasn't he, Russell?
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
And this is your favourite song by her, is it? Because there were quite a few of them.
It is. Absolutely my favourite, yeah. I mean, it's just got that groove all the way through, and it just sticks with it, and then goes into these drop-down sections, and it's a fantastic piece of work.
Can I ask you then about Things Can Only Get Better?
Yeah.
Because, it was used recently in Stranger Things.
Yeah.
How did you feel about that? First question.
Well, as soon as they asked, I said yes. I don't want any money for it. You can have it. You can have it to use for the. I mean, I did get something for it, but I just loved the series so much. I wanted to be in it, and then they used like pretty much the whole song.
Yes.
Which is great. And then I got this massive Kate Bush effect, I call it. I mean, suddenly all these young people discovering my music for the first time, is massive sort of increase in the streaming.
Tell me how that works then. So I've always wanted to ask somebody about this. Do the people, the Stranger Things directors, production team or whatever, they get in touch with you and say, how does it work?
Yes, because you have to give permission, because as the songwriter, first of all, and then also the person who owns the copyright of the song, which is my label now, Cherry Red. So both people, have to agree. But yes, they come to you, and it's pretty exciting when they say, we'd like to use your song for Stranger Things. I don't have to think about that very much.
And did they go through into kind of what context? You say you didn't know that the whole thing was going to be played. Did they speak to you about how it's going to be used? Or
yes, they usually give you a little synopsis of how it's going to be used so that you can feel comfortable about the use of it. I don't know. I can't remember reading that bit, so I didn't really mind, because sometimes it's like just played on the radio or something in the background, but this was like full-on song defining this moment of the 80s. And so it was wonderful when I saw it. Season 3 it's in.
Season 3, and overnight you said you've got brand new audience. How did that work for you?
That works because they have a Stranger Things playlist. They actually have several playlists, and I think Things was kind of near the top of the list, which is great. So people go, I want to hear the music from that, because it's so defined, isn't it? You know, it's all mainly electronic and from that era. And so all these new, wonderful young people going to the playlist, playing the stuff and going, oh, I like that song, and playing it over and over. So it's so cool. You just never know what's going to happen.
Were you surprised that they wanted to use that song out of all the others?
I guess, I mean, there's an there's an awful lot of songs, great songs from the 80s, isn't there? I think.
But I just wonder, out of your own, why they picked that one.
Well, Things is it's the message, isn't it? It's like, it's a very upbeat, very positive song, and it's got a whoa-oh chorus that anybody can sing. And I think that it sort of, it's that positivity that really can lift visuals, you know. And so it's very popular. I've had loads and loads of syncs with it. And they still keep coming in. So I think it's to do with that. It's the mood that it creates. It's the vibe that it gives off that really boosts, you know, the film.
I think personally, I'm going to get embarrassing now, Howard. I think it's like there's maybe 5 songs that I would say are the perfect pop song. One other's King's Love and Pride, but I think Things Can Get Better is just incredible.
Oh, well, that's really kind of you.
Incredible music, and it, you know, for 40 years on, that song. Sounds brilliant now, doesn't it?
Well, it's interesting. So it was written on the road. I had no time. You know, the first album, everything's written.
Yeah.
So the second album, I'm panicking because I'm every day is taken up with something. So I'm on the road and I'm writing backstage after a show or before the show, and I think picking up on the vibe of the audience, because it was such fun touring at that time. It was incredible, and so you're coming back to the dressing room and like working on new material, and that song was born out of that. The audience love to sing with you, and you want to put out a positive message, and I think that's it, you know, that's why it turned out like it did.
Great stuff.
Yeah.
And I hope you earned some money.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, because I still own my own songs, which is
Lovely.
Isn't that cool?
That's good, isn't it?
A lot of people have had to sell them for various reasons or done terrible deals, but I've owned them since the beginning. So they're very precious to me.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
I'm really glad I asked that. I noticed, I'm looking forward to this, nobody has asked, not one single guest on my 80s playlist has asked for Careless Whisper up until now. And please tell me why.
Well, it's got to be one of the best pop songs ever written, isn't it? Really?
It really has been. Is it true that George was like 17 or something when he wrote this?
I think it is true. And I met him a couple of times. One was at Top of the Pops, and he was really warm and friendly.
Yeah.
And then backstage at Live Aid, I met him. And this is another one that I've covered after George passed. And that was really moving because everyone knows that song. And you know, when you actually sing it and play it, it's different to listening it. You feel, like I was saying before, very, very connected to the person.
Yeah.
And you know, the line "guilty feet have got no rhythm" is like, how many words is that, and how much does that say? You know,
just within those couple of words.
Yeah. So it's it's so brilliant on so many levels, and everyone can relate to what that song is saying. You know, I just, you know, I've lost you, and I won't be able to dance again. I won't be able to be happy again. You know, it's this is because I did this stupid thing, you know, and we've all been through that, and it's so beautifully articulated in the song.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You touched on this a moment ago, and I must just quickly ask you, you were there Live Aid.
Yeah.
Tell me about that. What do you remember the most about it? Because it's amazing to speak to you and you were there, right? You know,
I remember everything about it.
Yeah?
Because I was so full of adrenaline that I think adrenaline locks memories into your mind forever.
Yeah.
So right, we could do a whole 2 hours on this. I'll try. I'll try. The highlights. The highlights. Yeah. Well, the highlight. I guess the biggest one was playing my song. You know, Hide and Seek. Mm-hmm. So Phil Collins had just been on before me, and I knew Phil because we we'd worked together, in various ways. And he said, "Oh, watch out! The piano's got some dodgy notes at the bottom end." It was Queen's touring piano that I played.
Right. So there's the piano that Freddie Mercury sat down and did Bohemian Rhapsody on.
Yeah. So and there's a few. So I was already the most nervous person in the universe, and Phil's telling me, "Oh, watch out!"
It's not what you want to hear.
No, but I gave those lower notes extra attention. And then sort of got out. I played the song a little bit fast because I was so nervous, but then got to the chorus, and then the whole of Wembley joined in. And it was sublime feeling, being lifted up by 100,000 people.
Yeah.
And of course, you are aware that there's like 2 billion people watching around the world as well, and there's a big moment for everyone. And sort of, but that feeling was I don't know if it can be topped really, because it was so significant. And it was that song. It was a song about hope, hope you find it in everything. So I thought that was the most important song to sing for that day. I could have done, one of the hits, that maybe would have more people would have known. But I thought, no, that's the song to do, because this is about something very, very important, and that was my favourite song to sing for that.
But you did enjoy it.
I totally enjoyed it, and I got to meet David Bowie.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Tell me, what was he like? Was he everything that you...
He turned to me and he said, "Howard," I'm thinking he knows who I am, right? So I goes, "Oh, I hear you're doing really, really well in America." It's like, David Bowie knows about me. And honestly, that was so wonderful. I don't think there's many people who would have had that effect on me, but he's always been my sort of biggest hero. So that was such a wonderful moment, that he would take the time to do that.
That
and say
stays
that.
with you, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. And I met McCartney that day and Linda, and had a great experience with them, chatting with them, and it was just. Story after story.
I feel like this interview could last for 4 hours. Look, I'll chuck you another one. Okay. The Grammys, Stevie Wonder.
Oh, yeah.
Can you tell me about that?
Okay, right. Well, that's so interesting, that is, because the reason they did it, I think, was going back to what I said earlier about synthesizers and drum machines. Now, Stevie was a pioneer of all this technology. He was using that stuff as soon as it had been invented. So he was using Moog bass lines and, really all cool keyboards. And what they wanted to do is to show people that actually, there's the legends that, that Stevie is and Herbie Hancock is, and us new boys, me and Thomas Dolby, that there was this connection of, keyboards were evolving and using these new synthesizers, new things, and I think it was a really cool thing to do, because it changed everyone's perception. That one performance, oh yeah, look, they're surrounded by keyboards, they're making this amazing music.
Yeah,
that's
full it's quite legendary, wasn't it?
Full of joy and full of groove and so yeah, it was like watching that back is such a thrill. And it was fun making it, because I got to jam with Stevie Wonder for like half an hour.
What was he like?
In his studio. Just me and him.
Wow.
Jamming. How many people get the chance to do that? And he was brilliant. And he kept going. So I thought, oh, well, he must be enjoying this, because he's carrying on with it. So
yeah,
he was brilliant. Yeah, just brilliant.
I've seen you. I've heard you say how important Scritti Politti have been to you, how influential. They're a great band. Tell me more, and why this song?
Well, I mean, it's a reggae for a start, but it's an electronic reggae. I mean, how cool is that? That's again a reflection of the 80s and the eclecticism of what was going on. Well, you've got, Green Gartside's amazing voice, the sound of his voice,
so distinctive,
this falsetto and androgynous voice, it is like, isn't it? And then David Gamson, the meticulous programming, using lots of FM synths, which very sharp and precise. And they worked with Arif Mardin, who's a legend. Worked with Aretha Franklin and all those great, amazing people from the '60s. Hold a career. Nora Jones and like the Bee Gees. I mean, so they worked with him, and that was a big influence on me wanting to work with Arif myself. And I did end up doing that for my third album.
Oh, amazing!
One. So there was, and it was because of their music, how well they worked together with Arif. This legend, but then with their very contemporary sound. And it's just that I still listen to their stuff now a lot.
I mean, this sounds incredible. Still, on a summer's day, you listen to this. It's almost. The other thing is, it's like a couple of tracks sewn into one. Because the last minute or so is beautifully different from the first minute and a half. It's lovely, isn't it? The way it takes you off on a journey.
I think I've probably picked quite a few people who really should get more credit than they have. But sometimes people don't want it because it's not good to be too well known. You want to be in the middle somewhere. That's what I think.
Really?
The best place. You don't get hassled by the press, and you can just get on with your work. If you're in the middle there.
Is that where you would say you are?
That's me.
Yeah.
You're happy? I'm really happy. I don't want to be too well known because then you get pressures that distract you from your work, and doing what you do.
On the back of that, I must ask you about the tour, because you're going to go touring.
Yeah.
Can I come? I'd love to see it.
Yeah,
I would love to see you in action. That would be an absolute highlight. So tell me about the tour. When is it? So
it's October, and we're playing all my favourite theatres in the UK. Yeah. The Palladium and the Birmingham Symphony Hall. Those. It's venues that my audience I know love to go to, and they love to bring their family, and they just have a great, So, and for me, it's like the 40th anniversary tour. So, and really, the band, the way it is now, reflects everything I've learned over the years. So, and it's a mixture of using technology and synths and programmed sounds, but also with great traditional musical skills, like Nick Beggs on bass, and hopefully my piano skills. Then there's Robin Bolt, who's my long time guitarist. So we're combining those two things, which to me is the perfect balance. So using both things. So and the band is like the best it's ever been, and we've been honing the work for so long. We've got it to a really good, and I've never had the chance to sort of perform that in the UK. I've done it elsewhere, but so really excited, and it's got off to a great start. People so. And
you mentioned earlier that you still get slightly anxious of the prospect. Are you nervous about it, about going back out?
Yeah, definitely. I'm performing and touring the whole time. It's not like but every gig is like, it's special. There's people out there come to see you. They want it to be great. They want you to be great, and you have to be great.
And a cheeky question, you're probably going to say, no, I'm not answering that, but the set list, are you doing any covers? Can you tell me? Are there any of the covers that you mentioned?
I love doing covers, and I sometimes when I'm doing my acoustic shows, I will do covers. But I've got so many songs that people want to hear of mine. I don't have any room.
Right.
So, but Nick's in the band, Nick Beggs, so I have to do Too Shy. With him.
Yeah.
I mean, people just love that, and we do a sort of acoustic version of it.
Oh, amazing.
That's such a massive song, and it's so great that Nick's in my band. I'm so proud of that. And so, it's a cracking version of that. So that's I guess that's a cover. Yeah. That's a cover.
Just before we get into David Bowie, Let's Dance, I want to pick up on something you said to me earlier about you know, how difficult it was to get the attention of record company bosses or whatever. I read somewhere, correct me if I'm wrong, that you hired the Marquee Club in London and you invited lots of people so they could come and see you perform. Is that how it works?
Well, we couldn't afford to hire it ourselves.
Right. I was like, go, Howard.
I was like doing about, I was doing 3 or 4 jobs at the time, working in factory during the day and all that, But we did say to them, look, we'll come on a Monday night when nobody goes out on a Monday night.
Yeah.
So we'll do 4 Mondays in a row, and we'll bring our wonderful people from the High Wycombe, Aylesbury area in coaches, which we used to do. Jan used to organise the coaches. Bring the audience with you.
Amazing.
And of course they loved it because they were going up to London. They knew everybody on the bus. It was like such fun. So we did that those 4 nights, and we invited all the record companies down, all the publishers down, and nobody wanted to sign me.
Really?
Yeah. It didn't work at all. And it was funny because I was back. It was back in High Wycombe at the Nag's Head of all places. Holds about 100 people.
Yeah.
I used to do that regularly. And that's where Paul Conroy, from Stiff Records at the time, came to see me with that crowd, and he got it. And he went on to run Virgin Records, but and he took me to Warner Brothers through that. But there was a fantastic comment he made. He said on the way back from the gig, because Dave Robinson, who was the head of Stiff, said, "Oh, I don't get it. There's something funny about the people around him and stuff like that." And Paul said, "Let me out of the car now. If we missed on Depeche Mode, we're not going to miss on Howard Jones." And that's what he said. Isn't that wonderful that somebody that's
amazing.
Out of the, and no wonder he went on to, Spice Girls and all that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, he masterminded all of that. And so it was wonderful. And so in the end, I ended up with Warner Brothers, and it was great.
How long did it take from that moment to the first hit?
About 6 months.
Wow, so not that long.
No, it wasn't that long.
So that was the break that you really
that was the
needed
break.
then.
Yeah,
so.
it did come in the end.
Yeah.
It did come in the end. And of course, once one company wanted, then they were all over it. But, they had the chance. I'm not going to go.
They should have took action at the Marquee.
Exactly.
Yeah. Amazing to hear.
Yeah.
You put David Bowie here, Let's Dance. Obviously, we spoke about Bowie earlier at Live Aid. It's interesting. Pete Waterman picked this song, and he said, Pete from Stockacre and Waterman said, this was a game changer, this song.
It certainly was for Bowie, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Because it suddenly got him to the mass audience that he didn't really want before.
Very different sound, this song, from the old sound, wasn't it?
It's working with Nile Rodgers producing, and it was recorded and mixed by my friend Bob Clearmountain, who's been one of my best mates for 4 decades now, and he's mixed albums, some of my records as well. And so I get the inside stuff about this sort of recording of it, and Bob's mixing, the sound on this record with the brass, with that very unusual delay, was a kind of mistake that the Bob was just messing around with delays, and Nile Rodgers heard it and goes, "Man, that is amazing. Let's keep that." And that's how you get that dun, 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 that brass bit at the front of it. That was just by chance. It was by chance.
Wow.
Yeah. But it, I think that it's always the same, isn't it? That album was huge for Bowie. It broke him everywhere, especially in America. And a lot of his fans from the beginning, didn't want to let him go, did they? They went, "Oh, we want him. We don't want the mass people to."
He's ours.
It's so funny.
Yeah.
Isn't it? But I'm so glad that he, because it's still him, even though it's very, it's commercially viable and successful. It's still him. I mean that tune, "Put on your red shoes and dance the blues." I mean, that's not a normal pop tune. It's it's Bowie.
Yeah.
You know, it's so he came through as this complete innovative genius that he was, even with a much more commercial sound. So.
And it worked for him.
Isn't it great?
But it's interesting that that he would have been met with the same snootiness then.
Yeah.
At that time.
Yeah.
What you're doing, you know.
Well, that's just like, as soon as you put your head above the parapet, you know, there's somebody who's not going to be happy with you. So that's one thing you sort of say to young artists: don't worry, you know, just keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah.
You know, don't be put off. Not everybody's going to like everything.
It's great advice. I must quickly ask you how your life changed when you broke America, because there are not many artists that have done that, and you did it. And you were part of like the second invasion, I read. Yeah. How did that work for you?
Yeah, well, it had always been a big ambition for me to do well in North America, because I spent a lot of time in Canada when I was a kid. So I listened to American radio a lot. Well, actually, it was a mixture. So Canada was like American hits and the British hits. You're hearing them both. I saw my first concert there. You know, I saw the Who. Oh, well, actually, this gives you a clue of what the diversity was. Because the lineup was the Who, the Trogs, and the 1910 Fruit Gum Company. Do you remember that?
No.
Well, they had a huge hit in America with a song called "Yummy, Yummy, Yummy, I've Got Love in My Tummy."
Well, I mean,
with
off the back
Who,
of that,
right? Opening up for the Who, who were smashing their instruments up at the end. It's like
that's variety, isn't it?
That's variety, and I think, you know, though I was 14, I saw that, and it must have had an impact. I love the Trogs as well. I mean, they were so cool. The white suits. I can remember everything about that show. White suits, blue and green shoes. And, you know, love thing. I was like, it was such a brilliant first show to see, because it's sort of like, that's the way music should be. You know, like, there's good stuff everywhere. You know, it doesn't have to be so-called cool or rock, or there's good stuff. And so so I've lost my plot. So America.
Yeah, how did they take to you?
Well, we did a lot of touring there. Whilst we were building it in the UK, we were out there on the bus doing the clubs and going around and really, you know, having a presence there, meeting the radio stations. And I think the reason why they liked the music was because it was different, but it was still songs, you know, that they could write. So it was electronic vibe at the back of it, but so it was a new sound, but it had these positive lyrics which really resonated with Americans particularly, you know. And so I got on the radio, and, you know, that was always the key to it. And I always think that for me it's always been more important to be on the radio than to sell the most amount of records, because if you're on the radio and it's a big hit, it will be there forever, you know. People can listen to it for nothing and hear it in their car or wherever they are. You don't even have to buy it, you know, to have it as part of you. So radio was my big thing, and that sort of paid off in the end, I think.
Did MTV help as well?
Oh wow, that was massive. Yeah, I can't forget that. Yeah, because the very first singles, you know, went straight onto MTV because it was just starting. They needed people who were making videos to be on there, and so you immediately got introduced to that audience visually as well as the songs. It was amazing good fortune to have that. Yeah,
it's a real game changer at that time.
Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. I was wondering, can we end with another song of yours? Because you've been so great this week, and thank you for all the stories and stuff, but would you like to pick which one we should?
At the moment, I would say Like to Get to Know You Well.
Okay.
I've had a renewed love of that song, because hearing it on the radio again.
Yeah.
It just really jumps out.
This is another track that could be used in Stranger Things.
Yeah,
it wouldn't sound out of place at all, would it?
It would be fine there.
If anyone's interested in placing
it would be marvellous there.
thank you so much for coming in.
Okay.
Have you enjoyed it?
I have totally enjoyed it, Steve.
Really great
Thank
to meet you.
so
I can't
much.
wait to see you in action as well later on
so
this
come
year.
to the Palladium.
I'll be there, front row with a big
Yeah.
banner. And will Jan be making an appearance at the show?
No, Jan will never be making an
That was a
appearance on
definite
stage.
no. Okay.
That's definite no.
Howard Jones, thank you so much. A pleasure to spend time with you. Thank you.
Steve. Brilliant.